So for today I thought I'd do a book review on Stephen King's It, and as you can tell I lost the dust jacket for this one, so I had to make my own. Anyway, let's start. Now, this is a beast of a book. Like, this to date is probably one of the longest books I've read in my life. And I remember it taking me quite a bit, actually almost half a year in fact. Not only because it was, over 1,000 pages, obviously, but also because a lot of the things that happen in the original miniseries also happen in this book. So I kind of had the same problem with The Shining, because, I saw the miniseries before I read the book, and it was the same in the book. So yeah, that obviously made it drag a little bit. Now, the premise of this book, if you're unfamiliar somehow, is it centers on these 7 kids who team up together to fight a malevolent force in their town that has been feasting on all the children. When they defeat it, they vow to come back if it ever comes back, and even make a promise to do so. And, wouldn't you know it, it returns 27 years later, and therefore more kids start going missing. So, the kids of Derry, now all grown up, band together again for another round with this malevolent force. But it's not going to be easy though, because this force has been in hibernation, so it's gotten a chance to grow stronger, smarter, and more sinister. And the leader of the group, Bill Denbrough, the group that comes together, has a more personal vendetta against the monster, since it is the one that killed his little brother. What's more disturbing is that this monster will sometimes take the form of a clown in order to get closer to its prey. Now, even though I said that this book was, kind of slow in some areas, I still did thoroughly enjoy it, because it still did manage to be quite disturbing. And I think a big part of that has to do with the fact that there's children involved. And obviously it adds a little bit to the horror, since, as a kid you're a little bit more vulnerable and more influenced by things. And the fact that their parents can't even see it only adds to it. Like, normally the parents not believing them would just piss me off, but here it's just like, oh shit, they should fucking trust their parents, but they fucking can't. They just sort of have to deal with this on their own. Started eating between takes, so I had to take my lipstick off. Got the Freddy glove back on though. Another thing I really like about this story is the characters. Like, these are probably some of the best characters I've read in any Stephen King story, or in any story at all for that matter. I try to be quiet since my 6-month-old nephew is sleeping. But another thing I really like about the story is that the characters just felt so realistic, because Stephen King writes them in such a way that makes you feel as though you're actually growing up with these characters. And he writes their childhood in such a vivid way, so that when eventually it does come to an end, aside from that freaky ass fucking scene in the sewer, it actually feels kind of depressing, because you know that their innocence is slowly coming to an end, and it's becoming a new chapter in their lives. And this book also proves to have a very, very good message on friendship, because that ultimately them sticking together is what helps them to defeat the monster. Of course they have to defeat it 27 years later, but their friendship proves to be pretty strong, so the monster will have some competition. This book is also a really, really good, but also somewhat tragic take on childhood and the innocence that is slowly lost, and everything else that is lost as it slowly comes to an end. What's creepier about Pennywise is that he seems to be like an allegory, or whatever you want to call it, for actual child predators, because they will lure children in with promises of something good, only for them to really hurt them in the most horrible way possible. I also want to point out that this is probably, in the best possible way, the most insane horror novel I've ever read. Like, to put it simply, somehow there's a giant turtle involved. So yeah, that was my review on Stephen King's It. It's actually on my top 5 Stephen King books. I think it's actually number 3, and I give it an A+. I really, really liked reading it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.